from CA Technologies. I'll be presenting a series of videos to help you with CA performance management. This video will focus on the core feature of discovery. This is a sample architecture for Performance Manager. At the bottom we have multiple data collectors collecting both SNMP and non-SNMP data from our lab infrastructure here. In total it's about 2 million polled items. Next up we have our data aggregator, collecting data from the data collectors and placing it into our data repository, a 3-node data repository in our example. And then finally, at the top, our CA Performance Center for our user interface. So let's log into our environment here. Log in with the default admin user here. And we see there's quite a bit populated in here already. Now, the first thing we need to do before we actually start discovering devices is we need to configure our SNMP profiles. So that's done up here in the admin menu item under SNMP Profiles. And since this is a test system, we have a few in here already, but I'll show you how to add in additional ones as appropriate. So we go in and we click New, and we give a descriptive name for our profile. So we'll call this just test for now. We can pick our SNMP versions next, so V1 or V2C, or the next option is SNMP V3, so we'll create one of each. So we'll do V1, V2C. Port, we can select what port we'd like to query out on. So most devices will do the standard SNMP 161. However, there are devices out there that you need to specify a different SNMP port. Next up is the community name. So by default with the roles in CA Performance Center, the community name is starred out, but I'll show you in a bit on how you can go in and configure so that you can actually view the community names if so desired. So we'll add in this one, and then we'll add in an SNMP version 3. So we'll just call this test v3. We select our version 3. We'll leave the port as the default, and then here we specify our username. So in this case here, we'll add in our auth no priv. That's our username here. Our authentication protocol for the devices that we have here, it's MD5, but you can pick SHA as well. Again, whatever's appropriate for your environment. You enter in your authentication password, and we see that we have a match, so that's good there. It will actually let you know if you have a failure in matching. Privacy protocol, you can pick, in our case here we'll have none, but you can select DES, AES 128, or triple DES. Let's just select one of them just so you can see. You type in the privacy password here as well. And you can see that, and then hit save. So there we've successfully added 2 SNMP profiles, and I'll go in and show you the roles here so you can actually view what those strings are if desired. So if you go into admin roles, we go to administrator and hit edit. We edit our roles here on the Performance Center. One of the available rights is SNMP clear text, so we select that, hit OK, hit save, and then if we go back to SNMP profiles and we go in and take a look at what I entered in before, we can see our community string in clear text. Again, by default, the system will star them out and you won't be able to see it, but you do have the option if you want to make for specific roles. You can go in and open that up so you can view it as clear text. So next up, let's go in and discover our devices. So now we'll go in and continue our discovery here. We go to admin, and underneath the data sources item there, we go to data aggregator. And then we see under monitored inventory, there's an item for discovery profiles. So that's what we need to do, is go in and configure a discovery profile. Again, in our lab environment here, we have quite a few existing profiles, so we can go in and take a look at an existing one here just to see. So you can see things like IP ranges, names, schedule, SNMP in advance. So we'll go in and create one here. So we'll go and create a new one, call it test discovery profile. Again, we can call this whatever we like. And then for an IP domain, you should have at least the default domain. You may have others as well. We'll cover IP domains in a different session, but we'll be on the default domain here. For IP hosts, so we can type in individual IPs, IP ranges, or host names. So we have a range here that we'll enter in. We'll add that, and we can add additional individual IPs, ranges, hosts, etc. We could also go in and browse and look for a text file with this information in there as well. We can schedule these to run on a daily basis and pick the time of day that we want to run these, or on a weekly basis, and again pick days of the week that we'd like our discoveries to run. By default, it'll go through all the SNMP profiles that we have configured and use the first one here. In our case, we'll go in and specifically select one so we can assign an SNMP profile. And then under advanced, we can go in and decide our naming conventions for our newly discovered devices here. So host name uses name resolution, so host files DNS. System name is pulling from the sysname off from the SNMP off the agent there. And then IP address is the default last choice. You can just change the order by selecting an item and moving them up and down. We can save that as default. The use ICMP here, this is should we decide to use a ping sweep to determine device reachability during discovery here. So again, if you're in an environment where you have firewalls, you have ping blocked, you can uncheck that. And the create pingables here refers to if we find a device that responds to ping but does not respond to SNMP, we can decide to discover them and create them as such. So we'll save this. And again, we'll actually go to page 2 here, since that's where our discovery profile has wound up. We see it's never been run, so we'll go ahead and run this and say yes. And as we hit the little refresh button here, we can see how quickly it runs there, so it's very quick. We'll go in and run and look at our history on this. And we can see in our environment, the range we actually have 2 devices that responded. We see the names for them here. We see the model. So again, there are 2 Juniper routers that I have discovered here. And so let's go in and say OK. And then next what we'll do is we go over to our monitor devices. Give it some time for it to populate in, but if we go in and start typing in our IP addresses that we had, and so these are the devices that we've discovered here, our 169 address here, and we see the details, the Juniper MX480. We're pulling 6 items on it right now. We'll get to how we configure pulling individual components such as interfaces, etc. And here's our other router here, an M20. Again, we're discovering SNMP v2c. The pulled metric families, again, we're just pulling core CPU, no interfaces yet. Again, we can we'll cover that in another session, how to actually configure additional monitoring profiles and monitoring configurations on here. But with that, we've successfully discovered our devices. in here. And again, in a future session, we'll cover grouping and actually configuring additional monitoring of these devices.